Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Holy shit. My name is Digo333, and welcome back to Tartfine for the New Order. Last days Europe as Reinhard Heydrich's Germany, or what fucking remains of it. In the last video, well, we found out Himmler's true plans for Germany and the world. And, when Reinhard fucking Heydrich realizes that morally your plan is no good, that says a lot. So, we have made moves, and we are currently working on getting a big enough faction together to try and undermine him. If I'm not mistaken, he has a new little description. In the silent bunkers of Ostparis, the Reich fear fumes, but his plans are not ruined, just set back. Soon, this disturbance will be dealt with, and Himmler can get back to what's truly important. A true disappointment. Never in Himmler's life did he put his utmost trust into someone, and Heydrich had represented, for the first time, an individual who would carry out his plans if necessary further. At first glance, who would think that a man with such pure genes as Reinhard Heydrich would see the necessity of such action, but not all things are meant to be. Unfortunately, Heydrich's Aryan features seem to only be skin deep. Underneath lies the scheming, cowardly traitor, worse than any Slav or Jew. Heinrich Himmler is a smart man, though, smarter than a rat and his accomplices. Across Germany, those true Aryans, those who believe in the Reichsführer's vision, rise against the treachery. It matters not that they fight for a lie. What matters is that they fight, that they keep Germany in the SS's grip. Perhaps Himmler is lucky that his vision is so grand, that the evidence Heydrich presents is seen as ridiculous, even fantastical, by those who may have thrown their die in with him if they believed it. No. Himmler holds the upper hand, as he always has over his bumbling counterpart. In Dresden, Feghlin broadcasts messages in support of his cause, keeping the people to his side. In Danzig, Barbie keeps a watchful eye on the traitors' movements and plans, feeding vital intelligence to Ostparis, in Alsace, Tyrol, Westphalen, Ostpreußen, and Lotharingia. Loyal men stand at the ready to crush this revolt, backed by what remains of the militarists in Lüneburg and the industrials in Schleichen. In Burgundy itself, Langemarck and Charlemagne moved to restore order, soon to rejoin Himmler in glorious conquest. By all means, Himmler holds with stronger hand over Heydrich and his pathetic rebellion. All there is to do now is play his cards correctly, and Himmler can finally do away with the middlemen who keep getting in his way, and then his plan will be complete. So yeah, we have quite a predicament on our hands. So we're training up more of these troops, hoping to get these guys out at green. All eyes on Heydrich has been completed. Yet again, with the moon hanging over Germania, Heydrich found himself in the command center, staring down at the butchered map of the Reich laid out on his operations desk. It was reckoned to be complete now, but that didn't make any more pleasant behold. What would Hitler have said of the situation? For a moment, Heydrich entertained himself in the image of a Führer in his prime. Germany, motherland, all of us, beset by treason, he would have bellowed. Yet our flame remains undiminished. The fire of the great Germanic race, those inheritors of Alexander, Kaiser, and Charlemagne, it cannot be extinguished by the encroaching darkness, no matter how many brave souls perish in its defense. The image faded, however, as reality crept back in. Hitler was long dead, that incarnation of him even more so. Germany's paragon had aged so rapidly that the attempted SS coup, that it shocked even Heydrich. Physically, he had never been impressive, nor even Aryan-looking, but he had sparked the fire of National Socialism and led his people to greatness. How could he have been anything but Aryan? Yet, Heydrich had to admit it was quite a disquieting thought. Was that how he would end his days too? Withered and fragile, without even the strength to raise his own arm and salute? He thought of another Hitler then, one who had never come to be, but certainly could have. As Hitler screamed in the undignified frustration, cascading his generals for their failures as the British, French, and Bolsheviks closed on Berlin, Heydrich thought of the old man's fury turning on him, demanding to know why he, the perfect Aryan, had failed, while the servants of Jewry and Bolshevism waxed strong over Germany's ruins. Heydrich pushed the thought from his mind, but he knew it would return time and again. Dark thoughts heavier than even leaden muscles. So we're going to go ahead and keep our enemies closer. It was mere months ago that we had to battle the non-SS factions within the Reich to secure Heydrich's rightful rule. Now we find ourselves without friends or allies, and those same enemies that might have once threatened Himmler are dead, broken, or scattered throughout Germany. Some small hope remains, at least. Certain elements of the Wehrmacht and moderate political groups have survived the Bürgerkrieg and seized territory for themselves. No doubt they intend to try and take advantage of the chaos to overthrow Heydrich. However, these men are realists, and once it becomes obvious that Heydrich is not loyal to Himmler, they will have second thoughts about any existing plans. Well, we can hope. Let's keep our enemies closer. Oh. Harold Wilson. Okay. Okay, next let's go ahead and contact the guerrillas. Aside from the militarists, many Spearite and Bormanites have survived the Civil War. With their leaders gone, they've rallied to the banner of Reinhard Gehlen, the former head of the Fremde Heeres Ost. Though Gehlen is a sly and egotistical usurper, his civilians do lend a certain degree of legitimacy to his supposed authority. The civilians can hang for all the Führer cares. They are still traitors, after all. Gehlen, on the other hand, would be an invaluable asset, owing to his decades of intelligent work and continent-spanning connections. He might be the sole individual in Europe capable of matching Himmler's operatives. Additionally, to our north, the famed 1st Panzer Grenadier Division, Berserker, continues to hold out in Pomerania. They have aggressively fought off both factions, both our forces and those of the neighboring factions. Hitler's legendary sword and shield might just serve Heydrich just as well. We can hope. If it'll be up to you, Heydrich, came Spiedel's tinny voice from the receiver, lodged precariously between the Führer's cheek and shoulder. So long as you stand against Himmler, I will be with you. But I can't speak of anything else until they're under my command. Heydrich resisted the urge to grind his teeth in frustration. Yes, yes. He sat down the last file his secretary had passed him, and took up the phone in a free hand again. This is going to be hell, Speidel. You're asking that I tried to undo 30 years of his damn sectarianism in the space of a few conversations. A tense moment followed, and Heydrich regretted the choice of words for the briefest fraction of sentence. Distrust runs both ways, Heydrich, Speidel replied, without a hint of insincerity. It can be undone in the same fashion. If you can't trust them, trust my judgment at least. They also have Germany in the end. Use that to unite them, not your office. Heydrich grunted as a farewell, and dropped the receiver into its hook. Trust. Trust hadn't existed in his lexicon until recently. Distrust was part and parcel of intelligence work, for nobody save one's superior was ever above suspicion. Where would Hitler have ended up if he continued to trust that pig Rome? Not as a rule of Europe, surely. Trust was for the unimaginative, for family, he supposed. He trusted Lena, mostly. His prodigy, definitely. His subordinates, more or less. But these names. He picked up the folders that had given him a pause for a few minutes prior and almost made him hang up on Speidel for the implication. Piotrovsky, Kazimierz. A Pole and a slave. Leader of the rebellion in Prussia. The others, Gehlen, Steinhoff, Wegener. Those were German names at least, but this? If this was a fruit of trust, it was bitter indeed. Heydrich found it not to his liking. I'll need a drink after this. So I believe... Yep. For current appalling state of the Reich, a critical component of our crusade against Himmler is the reunification of the Vaterland. The numerous cliques spread across what was once harmonious German soil must be either negotiated with or brought to heel by force. The status of our coalition and the fate of the very world depends on our efforts to save the Reich from its own divisions. So we're contacting the guerrillas. If I'm not mistaken, this will go ahead and give us, just right off the bat, the Free Corps. Contact the guerrillas. I think we might go for the DeGrelle Gambit real quick. No longer united as they once were, the SS is now just another assemblage of personalities which the Führer must contend with. Old comrades in arms have run the gamut from true-blooded Aryan ideologues to grizzled soldiers who barely pay lip service to the Reich's ideals. Heydrich might not be their commanding officer anymore, but Himmler is merely Reichsführer of Burgundy. His influence must be confined to his allocated domain until the time is right to strip it from him entirely. We shall see how true the honor of the SS is. I'm guessing it's not going to be that high. Hitler's old clock slowly ticked the seconds away. With the setting of the sun, the only sounds in Heydrich's office, besides the distant marching of SS patrols on the asphalt of Germania's streets, warm natural light filled the room and ignited bright reflections upon gold, silver, and glass. The Führer stirred from slumber and raised his head, squinting against the golden rays shining in. He stood and strode over to draw up the curtains, blinking sleep from his eyes. It wouldn't do to fall behind on such a basic physical need, but the work, so much work, organizing the extermination of millions had been simple compared to the task before him now. Back then, everything had been similar. The Führer Prinzip and his trust in Himmler guided his hand, raising him even higher in Hitler's estimation. Then came the coup, with a pointless fucking coup that had thrown everything into doubt for the first time in his life. The Wehrmacht wouldn't work with him. Himmler thought him a failure, and the Führer himself, well, his trust remained, but that wasn't worth much, given his growing senility. As he sat and flickered the lamp on, his eyes caught on the silver skull of his SS cap perched on the corner of his desk. He picked it up and regarded it idly, running a thumb over the polished metal, warmed by sunlight. Once that symbol had struck fear into the eyes of everyone from Dublin to Moscow. It stood for ruthlessness, cold-hearted efficiency, and the absolute master of the Aryan race. And then it became associated solely with Himmler's treason, and finally, Heydrich's own. Even if he succeeded in casting down Burgundy, what would it mean in the future? Would it speak of the great treachery of the Führer himself, who allied with insurgents and traitors to destroy National Socialism in the Reich? Perhaps if all went well, it would come to mean unity and the triumph of Germany. But in that moment, feeling treason's weight upon his shoulders, Heydrich couldn't imagine anything so agreeable. Who will speak for me in history? These guys are gone already. I don't think the de Grelle Gambit is worth doing. Actually, unknown focus. Do they even have a focus tree? I don't think they do. Well, okay. Let me look. I think it's better to go after the Deutsches Reich. Yeah, well, we're not gonna do that for now. I don't think it'll be too worth it ultimately. Let's try to get the Pretenders in. Reinhard Gehlen refers to his little statelet simply as the Deutsches Reich, as if the Führer simply did not exist. Quite the grandiose assertion, considering that his Reich is by all accounts a chaos mess. Mass panic is the order of the day, since Gehlen's meager forces are obviously not sufficient to hold off the surrounding SS fiefs. What the intelligence chief controls is little more than a glorified refugee zone, with the SS flag sticking down. Still, Gehlen's claims hold no water, and they're therefore not anything to be unduly concerned about. He poses no military threat, so we can deal with him at our leisure, though it should be soon, before his lack of a substantial army makes him a tempting target for Himmler. Yeah, it's a better idea to go for him. Our forts here. Did I hear that right? Speidel was genuinely confused. There's no way that this man, the Blonde Butcher, one of the masterminds behind the great labor and death camps, just gave the order. Heydrich sighed, though instead of looking annoyed like he usually did as subordinates, he looked tired. The Fricor. You have connections with their leaders. He paused. Heydrich's face was almost contorted. Speidel would have laughed at his discomfort, but he fought off the urge. Professionalism had kept him alive so far, and an outburst now could potentially reverse his decision. Lives, German lives, and friends were at stake. I need you to... The Reich requires to... Fuck! Can you do it? Of course. It will be done. Oop. Bypassing all of that. Yeah, there goes. That, okay. Let's try to appeal to Gellin. Unusually for an intelligence officer, Gellin has a reputation as a pompous braggart. Somehow, this has never been a problem for him, as during the past decade, he regularly rings around Heydrich's SS. Even the Führer admits he's impressed. Gellin has a deep-seated hatred for the SS, and especially for Himmler. This will be the key to bringing him on board. Doubtless, he already knows about the split in the SS, so the main focus must be showing him the wisdom of an alliance against Himmler, for the sake of Germany. I mean, that makes sense to me. So... he led the phone ring twice before he picked it up with a sense of dread. It had failed. He'd burned too many bridges, killed too many people, committed too many atrocities. Why did he think that anyone would ever even consider, much less actually work for him? He picked up the phone. Heydrich. Who is it? My Fia, it is Spidel. I have someone here for you. Some shuffling in the background, then over words. My Fia, Ulrich Wegner here. Hans filled me in, reporting for duty. Ulrich. It's good to have you on board. So I believe we can go ahead and reintegrate them right now, which is very good. I can peel. We can spread some anti-Himmler propaganda, which I'll go ahead and do. Why not? And let's give him an offer that he can't refuse. Hopefully he can't refuse. Ultimately, despite his many flaws, Gellin is a patriot. He opposed the SS constantly throughout his career, but not once did he act against Hitler or his own country. We can use these admirable qualities to our ends. He might not be a man of honor, but he's a man of common sense. He would have happily worked for any of the other claimants to the Führership. We simply need to demonstrate that Heydrich is no less trustworthy than they are. Turning over our liberal and conservative prisoners to him would be a good start. There we go. Amuse the fool. An offer he can't refuse. The Italian... Holy shit! The AI actually did it! Oh my god! Wow! I have never seen them do that before. Go figure. It's when the Jews have their homeland when their existence is at its greatest risk. But hey, you know. Artillery barrage, support companies. We'll do 2 doctrines at once. We're going crazy, guys. We'll do survival training. An offer you can't refuse. Next, let's go ahead and do the 3 armies. Actually, let's work on the militarist. With the Reich Marshal no longer present as a figurehead, the militarist clique within the Wehrmacht disintegrated as expected. Ultimately, they turned out to be sheep in wolf's clothing, not leaders or strategists. They've been thoroughly routed by the SS and no longer pose a threat to world peace, except for one, that is. Otto Ernst Remmer, a vicious little rat with delusions of grandeur, by far the most radical militarist in the Reich. Remmer has always advocated for war as an end in itself. Now he'll have his chance. Truly, a war to eclipse all others. So let's look. That Heinrich Himmler. These guys are leaning towards us. Can we move these? Let's see if we can't move these to... Jurgen strolled down the twisting labyrinth of alleyways, his footsteps echoing on the cobblestones and splashing in the murky puddles. With a sharp whistle, the man released a gloved hand from his trenchcoat pocket and adjusted the door perched on his head. A few moments passed. Suddenly, the dark alleyway lit up with an orange hue of a burning cigarette. Basking in glow was a slender man, simply dressed, leaning casually against the wall. Reinhard Gellen. "You made the right choice, Agent Kleiner Fuchs," Jurgen softly spoke. "I'm Agent Schwarzer Icarus. I speak on behalf of the Führer." "The Führer? In these fractured times, you may have to be more specific." Gellen smirked and took another drag of his cigarette. "What would Heydrich want with me? My stance is no mystery. If the SS is as competent as my Abwehr, you likely know the people I protect. Why shouldn't I scurry back underground when the inevitable conflict arises? You protect the last vestiges of the Bormanites and Spirites. To you, the only difference between Heydrich and Himmler is their height, correct?" Jurgen withdrew a light document from his trench coat and held it forward, almost teasingly. "I have top-secret information, Agent Fuchs. Willing concessions. For your eyes only." The effect was instantaneous. The Abwehr chief licked his lips and snatched the documents away. What a repulsive little man, Jurgen thought to himself. Heydrich had instructed him to appeal to Gellen's bizarre quirks in every way. The clothing, the code names. He felt as though he had entered a ridiculous spy movie. The pages kept turning. The man's rictus grin faded away into a look of deep concentration. He returned the documents, shook his head, and melted back into the shadows. A worthwhile performance, but there is work to be done. Sehr gut. We'll go ahead and expatriate some moderate prisoners. The last of the militarists. We got a new army. We'll go ahead and put these guys in. Oh, actually, yeah, that. Let's give them Hermann. Let's give them Heinz Harmel. Let's do the unlikeliest of dissenters. The split within the militarist camp has been driven by its most hardcore followers. Apart. Ardents report that a manhunt is underway within Rimmer's territory for Ferdinand Schorner, once their de facto leader. It appears that the Field Marshal's failures in the Bürgerkrieg had pulled the rug out from under him. Schorner may be a wanted man now, but the militarists would follow anyone with the strength to lead them. If we can find him, secure him, and remove Rimmer from power, his supporters would rally again. Furthermore, his hatred of the SS defines him. He will ally with us in a heartbeat if it means bringing Himmler down. Let's send him some SS saboteurs. Okay, let's go ahead and do the three armies next. The Waffen-SS, the strongest right arm of the Führer since 1939. When the gods of war called, it was the legions of the Waffen who were first to answer. Always at the vanguard of Germany's conquest. Most importantly, they are quite uninvolved in politics, simply put. They never had the time for endless skullduggery. Their mercenary tendencies are concerning, but their value as soldiers remains undiminished. Swaying the Waffen will hopefully not be difficult at all. Heydrich is well respected amongst the officers and enlisted men alike. So this is where our choice comes in, I believe. So the Deutsche SS is going to let us just annex them, it seems. So it's a very good thing that we went with them. Ferdinand Schorner is definitely still in the vicinity of Hanover, Speidel said. Whatever Wemmer's thinking, we can safely say that he isn't with the rest of the militarists anymore. We believe that most of them were neutralized in target assassinations, and Schorner might even be the last of the old clique still alive. Heydrich scratched his unshaven chin, mulling over the possibility of reaching out to Schorner. True, he had been the greatest enemy of the SS after that disgusting weasel spear, but that enmity was generally directed at Burgundy rather than the Deutsche SS. Do you think he would work with us, Speidel? He asked, carefully watching the man's reaction. Interestingly, there wasn't even a flicker of distaste on his bespectacled features as he gave his response. Without a doubt, he may be bloodthirsty, brutal, short-tempered, cruel, and borderline insane, but Schorner isn't stupid. He wants to conquer the world, not torch it. In that case, do you recommend aiding him? There it is. The slight twitch of the eye that marked Spiedel's very restrained anger. Yes, I do. Anyone in the here, not with me, is with him. If he needs the manpower, he can bring to our side. Heydrich steepled his fingers. Very good, then. Dismissed. I'll spare you the indignity of handling him. Godspeed, Heydrich, Spiedel remarked as he turned to leave. Make sure you don't take half measures with this one. I never do. We're already influencing a militarist warlord. Spread some more anti-Himmler propaganda. We're doing pretty well so far. Let's assist the Schornerite insurgents. The 3 armies. Next, let's do the Deutsche SS. Favorable news. The SS Kommandostab has fallen under the control of the Führer's close ally and head of national security, Herbert Otto Gille. This completely negates the need to fight for loyalty of the Waffen-SS, as any opposition to Heydrich can simply be expunged by their commander with the state's blessing. Moreover, Gille is unquestionably loyal to Heydrich, one of the few men who that can be said. Once upgunned and properly equipped, his forces will be a valued addition to our collection. Undercutting Himmler by denying him control of the Kommandostab couldn't have been easier. There we go. Gille's Deutsche SS. The Kommandostab was secure in friendly hands. The Deutsche SS, having gained a significant amount of sway during the Civil War, had quickly thrown their support behind Heydrich when the lines were crossed. Those members of the SS overtly loyal to Himmler had, for the most part, joined him in Burgundian exile. The SS in Germany had proven their loyalty to the true Führer. Gille had already moved to take command of a region and the currently leaderless organization that occupied it. Out of all the men who could have assumed control of the Waffen-SS in this time of crisis, Heydrich was certainly grateful that it was Herbert Otto Gille who had emerged victorious. For as much as Bohler did in advancing Heydrich's plans, Gille had always been significantly sturdier. The general was also one of the only SS men left that Heydrich truly trusted. Though, of course, this aid would be missed in Heydrich's own inner circle, the Führer had decided Gille could do more than stop Himmler's plan by ensuring the Waffen-SS is somewhat questionable loyalty. A stab in the back was the last thing Heydrich needed now. Regardless, how could the Kommandostab keep the order in their lands without a commander? And yet Heydrich almost regretted sending Gille away. For as full of doubts and questions of Führer war, Gille had been nothing but stalwart and dutiful in obeying him. He not even questioned Heydrich's departure from Himmler, nor his devotion from those National Socialist ideals. Gille almost seemed at times to convince Heydrich of the truth within his own ideas and actions when he was being struck by doubt. Now Heydrich faced the greatest challenge of having to convince him. Belief is a powerful thing. Well, they are very, very Heydrich leaning right now, which is very good. These guys are Himmler leaning. Fegelin is leaning towards Burgundy. These guys are leaning. Okay, right now we have control of 5 of the missiles. 2 are still up in the air. 1 here, 1 in here. Gille's Deutsche SS. Allies through thick and thin. As a battalion commander in the 5th SS Panzer Division Viking, Gille proved himself to be one of the Waffen's most able commanders. His multinational unit of iron soldiers smashed the Bolsheviks aside with ease, demonstrating the greatness inherent in their blood. It is that legacy of triumph which Gille will bring the fight against Himmler, where the traitor will have to rely on weak-spirited toadies. Heydrich shall have an iron-backed unit of immortals beside him. There we go. Alright, we can send in some more SS saboteurs. Which I think we'll go ahead and do. We're going to annex these guys off the bat anyway, so I'm not too worried about them. Wunderbar. Okay, so far we're doing okay. We'll stop exercising these guys In fact, we should be good to stop exercising in general. Yeah. Okay, so stop exercising. We'll send these... There. Heinz Harmel, we'll send you over here, buddy. We'll do an offensive line into Weisburg and Grodno. Let's do Death's Hand and the Freestadt Preußen. Heydrich and Eichmann have had a long history together, working in tandem. It was they who truly laid the groundwork for our great cleansing of Europe. Millions of unwanted souls removed from the world in the name of the master race are a testament to their joint efficiency. But that was long ago. The glory of those times are in question. More pertinent to our situation is that Eichmann's loyalty lies with Himmler these days. Perhaps not too late for him, however. Though currently engaged in a renewed purge of East Prussia, he's also menaced with a slave revolt to the north. Here lies a chance to win him back to our side, if he is worth the effort. Is he? We can reintegrate the Deutsches Reich. Wunderbar. Wunderbar. That is what we need right now. Death's Hand. Let's take a page from Leopold's book. Eichmann may have been the Führer's comrade in the past, but times are different now. What once seemed like a shared history of nobility is now increasingly uncomfortable to think about. But now's not the time for thoughts of what might have been. There's a battle to win. He has thrown his lot in with Himmler and must pay the price. Nobody shares in the Reichsführer's treachery can be permitted to live. So this will greatly increase SS faction opinion, but decrease the SS idealist faction opinion. Hopefully that'll be worth... The bridge will be burning. Going to the Freistaat Preußen. We have the anti-Himmler coalition. Fuck, what's his name? De Grel's dead. Assist Schornerite. Insurgents. Next, let's go ahead and do... Fegelin. The loathsome parasite named Hermann Fegelin is a disgrace to his race, his nation, and the SS. His advancement is owed solely to his politically motivated marriage to Eva Braun's sister. He has no talents, no grand acolytes, nothing to recommend him as an Aryan. He is a waste of skin, but even scum have their uses. Fegelin is popular with civilians for some uncomprehensible reason. It possesses substantial wealth that may be used for our benefit. Let's see if we can wring some use of that out of that little shit. Okay, there. We got him in our faction, which is very good. Let's do an appeal to degeneracy. Fegelin's popularity is supposedly due to his fine taste and refinement. Since when does an officer of the SS care for such things? Those manifestations of degenerate culture are exactly what the great Hitler wished to excise from German racial consciousness. But if it will help, perhaps there is something we can offer him. Some small concessions, without any strings attached. None at all, of course. Appeal to degeneracy. Let's do it. Oh. Perhaps we should send all the boys over here. Do an offensive line into here. Appeal to degeneracy. Let's deal for degeneracy. Once Feglin is ours, we have a plan for dealing with him and his assets appropriately. There will need to be some redistribution of funds acquired with his personal assistance, an investigation to his many contacts to see what can be done with them. Feglin will surely prove himself a loyal servant. Once he does, we shall see dispense in his just reward. Oop, we're pushing into here. Very good. Pakistan is independent. Nope. The wannabe. Ooh. Ooh, that is. Those guys are out of the picture, it seems. Still, as of now, it's just showing right insurgents. Let's bribe some malleable officers. Feglin smiled warmly as he shook the hand of his Standartführer, sent to speak on Heydrich's behalf. Standartführer Kreiser, wasn't it a pleasure? The emissary smiled. That was it, Herman. Turn on the charm. A wink, a smile, and a nod. Worked on women, worked on men. Never failed. General Lieutenant Feglin, replied Kreiser, squeezing his hand a little too tightly. Good to finally meet you. The Führer is eager for us to finally settle on the matter on your position in dispute with Reichsführer Himmler. Feglin chuckled and leaned back on his desk. Very unfortunate, yes. You must understand, of course, that I have certain obligations to my commanding officer. Kreiser nodded. Naturally. I expect nothing less from you. Then he turned to Feglin's two guards standing by the door. You two, he said, rummaging in his pocket. How much does he pay you? Feglin's smile vanished. He opened his mouth to speak, but one of the guards was faster. Same as anyone else, sir. That's fun too, said Kreiser, tossing each a fat roll out of Reichsmarks. There's your payment up front. Help me dispense with Führer's justice, and I'll see you get double every week for the rest of your lives. Not a second later, Feglin found himself staring down the barrel of two rifles in addition to Kreiser's pistol. Jesus Christ, what are you? Shut it. He produced a slip of paper from his breast pocket. Hermann Feglin, you've a charge of treason against the Führer and the Greater German Reich. The courts find you guilty and sentence you to be shot. Drop in soldiers. 3 shots to cure all degeneracy. Hermann Feglin dies. Greater German Reich annexes the Kampfgruppe Feglin. Wunderbar. Okay. Steiner. This fellow right here. Fuck. That's kind of, I think that's pointless to do. From my understanding, if you do this, that's not going to do anything. What do we want to do, though? That's the question. The DeGrell Gambit is not going to work. It's a tough question. Okay, let's work on the careful balance of trust. As a fierce coalition grows, it will become more difficult to hold together. Lesser men are not gifted with clarity of purpose, vital life, and service to the Reich bestows them. These people, these bickering people, all may have their own interests, many conflicting, which may undermine the greatest cause if not kept in check. Threats, bribes, coercion. Nothing is off the table. We fight not only for the salvation of our race, but for this entire miserable world, degenerates and all. Failure is not an option. Anything we must do is permissible. We're taking out Weisberg. Help these guys over here. War is hell. How's a... Okay, we're doing okay so far, though. The Reich... Barbie. Theodore Eka. Careful trust of balance. The idealists have a negative opinion, pragmatists have ambivalent, natives, moderates, and militarists are all ambivalent. In our struggle to find the fatherland against the apocalyptic madness of Himmler, we have been forced to call upon many unconventional allies and build a disparate coalition of conflicting interests. While also in a more ideal situation, we must not be allowed to stand. It's a matter of necessity that we maintain the opinion of each group that we have turned to. Failure to do so may lead to the depths of that we all hold dear. We'll do front line here. I have a feeling we might just want to go ahead and go after these guys. They're showing me, like, how are they doing? Well, the bazookas are leading to us. They're leaning towards Himmler, but I don't think that's going to work out too well in the end. Maybe it's good working on Schleswig. It's good that the natural order of things has survived in Silesia, or form of it at least. Karl Hanke and an assortment of capitalist swine are not ideal leaders for National Socialism, but if they continue to run their factories and keep the slaves in their place, they will suffice. Now, we must assume control of Silesia ourselves by any means necessary. It's one of the Reich's most important industrial zones. Securing those mines and factories for the Fuhrer might give us the edge we need to match Burgundy's arms production. Yeah? Let's do some early industrial robotics. Front line against these guys. And send in some SS saboteurs. The work goes on. Ooh, and we can go ahead and do a new face of the head, I think we'll do real quick. Our influence in our territory is pervasive now, and his forces are on the back foot. Soon we should be able to strike a decisive blow, decapitating the militarists and allowing Schorner to resume his leadership. Knowing the monster uniform, the process will involve a fair few shootings, but who will miss Remmer's toady? All's necessary. New face of the head. Next, let's go ahead and do... eyes and ears, maybe? Go after... just take these guys out. The Butcher of Lyon, Klaus Barbie, has made his home in Danzig, where our glorious crusade against world's degeneracy began in earnest. With his grasp of intelligence and security, he would be a valuable asset, assuming we can pry him from Himmler's grasp. The threat Barbie represents is more political than anything else. He will continue to feed information to Himmler so long as the Reichsführer supports him. This leak must be plugged. It's Schöne, my Führer! Buttered the secretary, managing Heydrich's phone for the hour. The Führer dropped his cigarette and strode over to the desk, seizing the proffered receiver and shooting the nervous-looking young man. General Field Marshal Schöne, good evening. I take it that you have dealt with her in a manner befitting his actions. One moment, Heydrich, came a coarse voice from the other end. Bring him here! There came a rustling, and what sounded like boots being dragged across floorboards. Do you have something you want to say to the Führer? You fucking rat! Well! A fist smacked into flesh, eliciting a muffled yelp. Heydrich, not one for self-indulgent violence, took a seat and waited for Schöne to finish. My Führer! Please! Oh! Then, a gunshot. Then a half dozen more, followed by the faint sound of a pistol clicking on empty. There, Dotwif. I'll be in Germania in the morning. Sig Heil. He hung up, leaving Heydrich feeling quite content with how his day had gone. A pleasing development. Oh, never have I been so happy to see Ferdinand fucking Schöne here. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to have to cut it here. Thank you as always for watching, however. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content in the future, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for more uploads every weekday, as well as every Saturday. If you have any comments, feedback, concerns, anything of the sort, go ahead and leave in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get and appreciate any all feedback you might have for me. If you want to see me bucks away, I have a Patreon. If you want to chat play games, I have a Discord. If you want to see me do a Source Live, I have a Twitch, all of which are down linked below. Thank you as always for watching, ladies and gentlemen. My name has been Dogwat33, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.